Please adhere to YouTube's selected guidelines before viewing the content of this video. I do not encourage or condone any products, actions, or behaviors shown in this video. All videos are produced in a safe, professional, and controlled environment. Please do not attempt to replicate any actions performed during the video. All actions are performed by professionals.
Alrighty, so today I'm going to be smoking and reviewing a pack of 1960s Phillip Morris Commander unfiltered cigarettes, which sadly, since the 1960s, have now been discontinued. They were discontinued in, I want to say, 2014 or 2015, which really is a shame because these are pretty legendary cigarettes, if I do say so myself. Phillip Morris Commanders are pretty well known as being one of the best unfiltered cigarettes on the market. Or at least they used to be, because of course they've been discontinued for quite a while now, and it really is a shame. But I am extremely happy to have this pack of cigarettes in my hand right now, not only because it's a pack of Phillip Morris Commanders, but also because it's a pack of Phillip Morris Commanders from the 1960s, from the very beginning of the Phillip Morris Commander production run, to be exact. Now, how do I know specifically that these are from the 1960s? Well, the reason I know that is because Phillip Morris Commanders started to be produced in the US market in 1960. And this pack of cigarettes contains absolutely no warning labels at all. And warning labels started to be introduced on USA cigarette packs in 1965, which means that this pack of cigarettes right here must have been produced between 1960 and 1965. Which means that at the youngest, this pack of cigarettes right here is 58 years old. I'm 21. That means this pack of cigarettes is 3 times my age. 3 times my age, which is absolutely ludicrous. As I'm sure you guys can tell, I am just so excited to give you guys a full review of the Phillip Morris Commander unfiltered cigarettes, which, as said, have now been discontinued since around about 2014-2015. One thing I do want to acknowledge before I go ahead and actually hop into my expectations for, well, this pack of cigarettes right here, is that, yes, I have tried one of the Phillip Morris Commander cigarettes previously. I smoked one out of here for a different video, smoking some 1960 cigarettes for the first time and everything like that kind of thing, about a week ago. And when I smoked it, it was very stale. So I figured I should probably wait and try to humidify them to see if they can be any more humidified for when I want to give them a full review. And so as such, that's exactly what I did. I went out and I bought a humidification packet from a cigar store, and then I went back home. I threw the cigar packet, the humidification packet, in a cigar box, and I put this pack of cigarettes fully opened in that cigar box as well. So hopefully these are a little bit more humidified than they were in the video I made about a week ago, because they were very dry and pretty dang stale, if I do say so myself. So hopefully those effects have been decreased just a little bit, but I doubt they've gone away entirely, because cigarette tobacco tends not to age as well as cigars do. Cigars you can rehumidify pretty easily and everything like that kind of thing, and they'll almost fully recover. Cigarettes, on the other hand, if they get dry, you're just out of luck kind of thing, and you really can't do much about it. But I'm hoping that these are more humidified than not. One more thing I want to say before I hop into my expectations is I want to go ahead and give a big shout out to Alex for sending this pack of cigarettes over to my P.O. box for me to review. I really seriously do appreciate it. Thank you very much to Alex for sending this pack of 1960s Phillip Morris Commander unfiltered cigarettes over to my P.O. box for me to review. I am so appreciative of it. But what are my expectations for, well, this pack of cigarettes right here? Well, taste-wise, I definitely do think that the Phillip Morris Commanders are probably still going to be a little bit stale. It's a pack of cigarettes from the 1960s, even though I did have it humidifying, even though I did have this pack of cigarettes in a box with a humidification packet for about, I want to say, a week. I'm certainly not expecting them to have completely recovered, so I definitely do think that these cigarettes are still probably going to be more stale than not and more dry than not, and they're going to taste pretty stale, that is for sure. But I am also very much expecting a very nice, sweet, full-flavored tobacco taste, almost like a Virginia tobacco taste, if I had to guess. That is a taste that I got when I was smoking this cigarette in a previous video. And so as such, I definitely do expect that same taste today, that is for sure, unless that cigarette was a one-off fluke. Other than taste-wise, though, I am expecting the body off of these cigarettes to be massive. It's an unfiltered cigarette. Why? I have no reason not to expect the body to be massive. That is for sure. I'm thinking draw-wise, the draw is going to be super easy because, well, it's an unfiltered cigarette. I'm thinking airflow-wise, the airflow is going to be very, very, very wide open and not constricted at all. And I'm thinking roughness-wise, these are definitely going to be a bit more rough than not. Well, because they're from the 1960s and because they're pretty dry, if I do say so myself. But I'm not really expecting them to be any more rough than a modern pack of Camel Unfiltereds, Lucky Strike Unfiltereds, or Pall Mall Unfiltereds, in all honesty. And overall, I definitely do expect these to be a fantastic smoke. Without further ado, though, now that I've gone ahead and covered my expectations, it is now time for me to go ahead and, well, hop right into the packaging of, well, the 1960s Phillip Morris Commander cigarettes. After I go over the packaging, I'm going to go ahead and get, well, this pack of cigarettes all opened up. Oh, wait, I've already got it all opened up. So I do suppose after I go over the packaging, I'm going to go ahead and get, well, one of these cigarettes out. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what these cigarettes look like, what they feel like, and what the quality of them is like. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and get one of the 1960s Phillip Morris Commander unfiltered cigarettes all lit up and go ahead and let you guys know how these cigarettes actually are. Overall, as I'm sure you guys can tell, I am just so excited to give this pack of cigarettes a full review. Get my words just jumbled up just a little bit, that is for sure. But without further ado, before I go ahead and get my cigarette all lit up, as said, I gotta go ahead and take a look at the packaging first off. So, the packaging for the Phillip Morris Commanders. What are my overall thoughts on it just right off the bat? I think it's pretty good looking packaging, I ain't gonna lie. We can see there is an overall background of white throughout the packaging with a bunch of very, very, very nice details layered onto that white background. We can see there's a gold strip going all the way around the top of the packaging right here into the red on the side, but I'll be getting that in just a minute. We can see there's a blue strip going all the way down, but I'll be getting to that in just a little bit because that is mostly part of the top of the packaging, because this is like the unfiltered cigarette strip and everything like that kind of thing that holds the actual foil into the actual like design and everything like that kind of thing. I don't know what the actual name of this is, but this is more so a part of the top of the packaging than the front of the packaging, so I'm just going to cover that when I cover the top of the packaging in just a couple minutes. But moving below this blue strip right here, we can just see the classic Phillip Morris logo. We can just see there is a sort of like dragon on this side, and then there's a lion on this side wearing a crown, and then we can just see in the middle right there's a circle right here with a red splotch in the center, and then in white it just says PM right there with some white dots underneath. It doesn't say PM USA or PM International, it just says PM, standing of course for Phillip Morris. And then we can just see on top of that little red splotch there is just a crown right here, and of course that red splotch is just surrounded by gold. Underneath the gold circle surrounding the red splotch that says PM in the center, we just have a nice gold ribbon right there, and that's pretty much all there is to the Phillip Morris logo. One thing that's significant to mention about the logo itself is that it is a little bit different from the modern Phillip Morris logo. It's not super different, they are more similar than not, but I feel like this one is slightly different stylistically, at least. I feel like the modern one is a little bit more simplified, whereas this one has just a little bit more detail that you might not be able to see on camera, but is very, very, very visible in real life, that is for sure. While they do look, while both the modern and the old Phillip Morris logo do both look very, very, very similar to each other, because of course it's still the same logo, I just feel like some different details have changed, which is something that is, of course, something I want to mention. I'm getting my words all jumbled up. The wind is distracting me a little bit, but that's something I wanted to mention, because seeing how the brand designs of brands will change over time is something that is very, very, very interesting to me. And so seeing how the Phillip Morris logo itself has changed throughout the years is just very, very, very interesting. And I definitely do feel like this logo is just a little bit different than the modern one, that is for sure. And it's just very, very, very interesting to see, that is for sure. Under the Phillip Morris logo right here, though, we can see another Phillip Morris logo. I'm not exactly sure how to describe this shape right here, this red shape right here, but if I had to describe it, I'd have to say it's an oval with the ends cut off and a divot in the top, almost like an ashtray. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. We can see there is a gold strip, a gold border going all the way around the red background in the center, and on top of the red background in the center, we can just see there is some white text that, of course, just says Phillip Morris right there. Underneath the red and gold sort of oval thing, I guess, I don't know, we can just see there's a blue strip right here running along the bottom, and then in gold on that blue strip, it just says Commander right there. So, of course, these are indeed the Phillip Morris Commanders. It is said front and center right here. Certainly no complaints on my behalf. Under the blue strip right here, though, we can see there is a very, very, very thick gold line just stretching all the way down to the bottom of the packaging right there. And then on either side of that gold strip, there are 3 thinner gold strips just stretching down to the bottom of the packaging as well. On either side at the bottom of the packaging right here, we can just see it just says king size cigarettes. Of course, fit for a king, you know what I'm saying? Fit for a king, that is for sure. Certainly no complaints on my behalf. And that is pretty much all there is to the front of the packaging. There's really not much else to say. It is not the most complex packaging in the world. There's not the most details on it by any means, but I think it's a pretty good look overall. And it definitely is a very, I definitely have to say, luxury look. Not the same luxury sort of look as you would get from like something like, let's say, a Nat Sherman or a, I'm trying to think of a, or like a Sabrain or something like that kind of thing. Not the same luxury look as you would get from that, but this pack of cigarettes definitely looks a lot more fancy than not, even though it is very, very, very simple. And I definitely have to say, while this pack isn't minimalist per se, it's also not maximalist, and overall, I'm just a huge fan of this packaging. Let me just put it that way kind of thing. I'm just a huge fan of this packaging. From a distance, it definitely is pretty recognizable. That blue strip at the top right there, and then the red right here with the blue strip underneath, and then the gold going all the way down kind of thing. Very, very, very recognizable. If these were still sold today, I think they would be super recognizable on the shelf. So certainly no complaints on my behalf, that is for sure. Although I will admit they're not the most recognizable from a distance, but they do definitely look more recognizable than not. But if you didn't know what you were looking at, if you did not know what you were looking at, I don't think these would even be the most recognizable in the world if these were still sold today. But if you know what you're looking for kind of thing, these are going to be, of course, very, very, very recognizable. Certainly no complaints on my behalf about the front of the packaging. I think it's a great look. I don't think it's a minimalist look per se. I just think it's a very nice, maybe not luxury look, but it definitely looks fancier than not. It looks super retro, especially with the fact that they're in a soft pack. It just looks super retro. I really, really, really do like it. One thing I do want to mention, though, is that this design is not really a timeless design. Marlboros, for example, Camels, for example, are very much, or at least Marlboro Reds and Camel, like unfiltered and Camel filtered and Camel Blues and Camel Reds and stuff like that kind of thing. Those are all very much timeless designs in my opinion, because those are designs that have quite literally been used for over 50 years. This design, on the other hand, is not as iconic as a Marlboro or a Camel, and it's not a design that's used anymore. And this sort of design, I'm trying to think of the right way of putting this. This sort of design, what's the right way of putting this? There's this sort of design philosophy, that's the right way of putting it, is not really used on a lot of cigarette packs today. And so as such, the design, I will admit, while it does look very retro and it does look more fancy than not, it has not aged very well. It has not aged as well as some competitors like, let's say, Marlboros or Camels, but it still looks a lot better than not. And overall, I am a pretty big fan of this packaging, but it's definitely not my favorite packaging ever, but it definitely is better looking packaging than not, that is for sure. But I think that's pretty much all I had to say about the front of the packaging. Overall, as I'm sure you guys can tell, I'm a pretty big fan of it, but it's definitely just not the best packaging ever. Without further ado, it is now time for me to go ahead and move on to the back of the packaging, which is exactly the same as the front. There are quite literally no differences, and man, oh man, that wind is, I do apologize about any wind noise y'all might be hearing. It is pretty windy today, that is for sure, but the back of the packaging is pretty much just the exact same as well. The front of the packaging, in all honesty, there are no differences, and in all honesty, either one of these sides could actually be the front of the packaging. And actually, I think I was actually showing you guys the back of the packaging, because I always consider the front of the packaging to be the side that the words are facing towards on the top and everything like that kind of thing. And I think I was showing you guys this side, but I mean, like, hey, it is what it is kind of thing. Either way, the front of the packaging, the back of the packaging are exactly the same. There really are no differences at all. Moving on to I'm going to go ahead and go, yeah, I'm on the front of the packaging right now because this is the side the words are going for. I'm going to go ahead and move on to this side of the packaging right here. We can just see on this side of the packaging, we can see it's just got a very, very, very nice red background stretching all the way down to the bottom. You know what I'm saying? At the top right here, we can just see the Phillip Morris logo all in gold. Certainly no complaints on my behalf. Then we just see a white line right here, and then we can just see in white, it just says Phillip Morris right here, and that same exact, very nice, almost Times New Roman, fancy-like font that we see on the front of the packaging. This is the exact same logo. Instead of being layered on top of each other, though, it's just all straight across. Whoopsies, I showed you guys the other side of the packaging by accident. In gold, though, above the Phillip Morris logo right here, we can just see it just says 20 Class A cigarettes, which I think were introduced. I think the Class A designation was introduced in 65, so maybe these are actually, maybe these were produced in 65. I don't know. Please correct me if I'm wrong about the age and date of this cigarette and everything like that kind of thing. I'm not an expert on this matter. I just did a little bit of research and decided that the 1960s was the most likely area for these cigarettes to have been made, simply due to the lack of warning labels. But 20 Class A cigarettes, that certainly does throw it off a little bit, that is for sure. So please correct me if you guys think I'm wrong about the date of these cigarettes or anything like that kind of thing. But nonetheless, it does indeed just say 20 Class A cigarettes right here above the Phillip Morris logo right there. And then we can just see below the Phillip Morris logo in gold, once again, it just says Phillip Morris Inc., manufactured MFD. I don't know what MFD stands for. I thought it stood for manufactured something, but I can't remember, honestly. It just says MFD, Richmond, Virginia, made in USA. And that's pretty much all there is to this side of the packaging. And once again, I do apologize about any wind noise you guys might be hearing. It is certainly very, very, very windy today, that is for sure. Moving on to the other... Whoa. Hey, you guys scared me. How's it going, y'all? You guys scared me. How's it going, man? How's it going? I see you. I see you. Ah, they're friendly. Ah, that makes sense. Taking a look at the other side of the packaging, though, we can see the Phillip Morris logo once again right here, once again in gold. There's a white line once again on this side of the packaging as well, and then once again we can just see the Phillip Morris logo again, just straight over and across in white on the red background once again, on the red background once again. Below the Phillip Morris logo, we can just see it just says in gold, America's Finest Cigarette. That's pretty big, I ain't gonna lie. That is pretty big, that is for sure. So, America's Finest Cigarette, certainly no complaints on my behalf. These had better actually be America's Finest Cigarette. If they're willing to put it on the packaging, it had better be America's Finest Cigarette. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. But that's pretty much all there is to both sides of the packaging. As we can see, there is a distinct lack of any warning label at all. And the only thing that's really similar on the side of the packaging, besides the manufacture date and the logo being on the side of the packaging and everything like that, between this pack and modern cigarette packs was the 20 Class A cigarettes designation. That was really the only thing that was actually similar on, really the only thing, I'm getting my words all jumbled up today. That's really the only thing that is actually similar between this pack of cigarettes right here and modern cigarette packs, regulation-wise at least. But that's pretty much all there is to the sides of this packaging. Moving on to the top of the packaging, we can just see, of course, there's silver foil right here, and then we can just see cigarettes on this side because, of course, it's an unfiltered, it's a soft pack of cigarettes with unfiltered cigarettes. You know what I'm saying? Of course, we can just see the tobacco and everything like that kind of thing, and then we can just see that blue strip just going all the way around and across, or going all the way over the top of the pack right here, just to keep the silver foil in place and everything like that. On the front of it right here, we can just see that there are two gold lines just surrounding the entirety of the blue strip right here, going around the inside of the blue strip right there. And then we can just see 3 gold stars right here on both sides, you know what I'm saying? And then on the top of it, we can just see it just says made with vacuum clean tobacco. Now, I don't even know what vacuum clean tobacco means, in all honesty. It was a thing that they advertised Phillip Morris Commander Cigarettes as having back in the 1960s. What does vacuum cleaned even mean, though? Probably means exactly what it sounds like. It was probably, they probably just got a bunch of tobacco dust off with vacuum cleaners or something like that. But let's be honest here, does it really matter? Probably not. Probably not, just simply because it's just an advertising gimmick. That's all vacuum clean tobacco is. It's just an advertising gimmick, just like flow filters these days, or just like, I'm trying to think of something else. Flow filters are an advertising gimmick for sure, although they're not bad, that is for sure. I definitely have to say other advertising gimmicks, none are coming to my head. Ooh, fine cut tobacco. That's a little bit of an advertising gimmick, but it is also a real thing. But you know, vacuum clean tobacco, it just comes off as an advertising gimmick. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. No advertising gimmicks are coming to my head right now. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. But you know, vacuum clean tobacco, what even does that mean? I looked it up. I couldn't find any information on what it actually means. And so, yeah, vacuum clean tobacco probably just means exactly what it sounds like. It's probably just cleaned with a vacuum, if I had to guess. Who knows, in all honesty. But that's pretty much all there is to the top of the packaging. Moving on to the bottom of the packaging, right here, we can just see there is a very, very, very similar shape on the bottom of the packaging to, well, the top of the packaging right here. We can just see it kind of cuts off right there. We can see the red right here with the Phillip Morris logo right there, just both stacked on top of each other. The red has a border going all the way around it. And then this time as well, the blue also has a border going all the way around it as well. And on the bottom of the packaging, it does not say Commander right there. One thing that I do want to mention that is pretty cool about this pack of cigarettes is that the gold line that goes all the way down right here stretches into this right here, and then on the other side it stretches back up, which means that the design for this pack of cigarettes right here stretches around the packaging, which I think is pretty cool, I ain't gonna lie, and it is overall something that I am a pretty big fan of. I think really my main complaints about this packaging really are just the red sides to it kind of thing. The red sides to it definitely are just a little bit contrasty kind of thing. They definitely just don't match the rest of the packaging. But honestly, it's kind of a good look in of itself. I'd have that criticism, and I'd be very harsh with that criticism on a modern pack of cigarettes. But honestly, the sort of retro design of this pack of cigarettes kind of makes it look good, I will admit. And overall, I am definitely more of a fan of the red on the sides than not, that is for sure. So certainly no complaints on my behalf. But I do think without further ado, it is now time for me to go and give you guys my final thoughts on the packaging. My final thoughts on the packaging are that it's definitely not the best packaging I've ever seen, but it's also most certainly not the worst packaging I've ever seen either. And I think it's a great retro look. It's not timeless per se. I don't think it's aged super well, but it is a great retro look. And it's a look that I really do like. There's some very cool details on it. And overall, I am a pretty big fan of this packaging, that is for sure. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get one of the cigarettes out. Just like that. So let's just go ahead and I think I'm gonna get this cigarette out right here. And now I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what the cigarettes look like, what they feel like, and what the quality of them is like. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do just that. As we can see, the cigarette is a little bit yellowed, which makes sense because, well, the cigarette, of course, is, well, 58 years old. You know what I'm saying? It really, really, really does make sense. But we can see, other than the yellowing, we can see there are a bunch of vertical strips going all the way down the cigarette and everything like that kind of thing. And then we can just see in blue, it just says Phillip Morris right there at the top. Both of those are stacked right on top of each other. Then we can just see 3 blue stars right there underneath. And then we can just see it just says Commanders vertically on the cigarette itself right there. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much all there is to the actual look of the cigarette. There's really not much else to it. It is an unfiltered cigarette. That's the look to the cigarette. There's no interesting filter or anything like that kind of thing. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to the look of the cigarette. I think it's a pretty good look. It's definitely not the most unique look in the world, but it looks pretty retro in my opinion. And overall, I am definitely a bigger fan of how these cigarettes look than not. Smelling this cigarette right off the bat, I definitely have to say, compared to the last time I smoked one of the Phillip Morris Commander cigarettes, this smells a lot better. It no longer smells like old paper. It now actually smells kind of a little bit like tobacco. Yeah, like really, really, really sweet tobacco. That's what it smells like. A little bit of like an old paper taste is mixed in there, or smell is mixed in there as well. But overall, yeah, this smells really, really, really sweet. I'm thinking the humidification might have just worked. Oh man, I'm getting my hopes up. Hopefully my hopes are not dashed, that is for sure. But overall, these cigarettes look pretty good, that is for sure. I really do like the details on the cigarettes. Sadly, the blue on the cigarette is not quite as deep, quite as dark as the blue on the packaging, but honestly, I would not be surprised if that was simply due to the age of the cigarettes and the ink on the paper itself just ended up fading just a little bit. I would not be surprised at all if that was the fact. But as said, just says Phillip Morris logo, just says Phillip Morris logo, just says Phillip Morris right there, 3 stars right there, and then it just says Commander vertically. Overall, a great, great, great look, and I really do like the font they used for Commander on these cigarettes as well, although I'm not sure if you guys can really see that. Overall, though, the cigarette is decently stained. There's a bunch of nicotine stains on it. The paper is pretty yellow as well, simply due to the age of the cigarette. But overall, it smells pretty good. It looks pretty good. And overall, I'm thinking this is definitely going to be a better smoke than not, especially now that it's been humidified. I am so excited to try one of the now humidified Phillip Morris Commander unfiltered cigarettes from the 1960s for the first time, and well, now humidified. I've tried one of the Phillip Morris Commander cigarettes before, but now that they're humidified, I'm excited to retry them again for the first time, and to let you guys know how the Phillip Morris Commanders actually are, and let you guys know what the rating I'm thinking for them actually is. But now that I have taken a sip of water, I do think it is now time for me to go ahead and get this cigarette right here, the Phillip Morris Commander unfiltered cigarette from the 1960s, all lit up, and it's time for me to go ahead and, I do suppose, let you guys know how this cigarette actually is. I feel like I have something else I wanted to say. I think I'm getting a little bit jumbled up because usually what I do in reviews is, of course, I get the cellophane all off, and then I'd get the cigarette out, I'd take a look at the cigarette, I'd smell it, and all that sort of stuff. And I didn't get the cellophane all off. I didn't have to open the pack of cigarettes or anything like that kind of thing. It was already open. And I think that fact, because I already did the other stuff, I let you guys know how it looks. I smelled it and everything like that kind of thing. Smelling the inside of the pack, it smells like old paper kind of thing. It definitely doesn't smell as good as this individual cigarette. But there's not really much else to say. I think I'm just getting so jumbled up because I'm so used to just opening the packs of cigarettes for the first time during the video. And well, I did not do that today. So I think that's what's getting me jumbled up. But I think without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get this cigarette all lit up. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I have anything else to say, even though I do feel like I'm forgetting to say something, probably just because, well, the pack of cigarettes was all opened up. But there's nothing more for me to say at the moment, you know what I'm saying? So without further ado, once this wind dies down just a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and get the 1960s Phillip Morris Commander cigarette all lit up and go ahead and let you guys know how it is now that it's been, hopefully, humidified. Without further ado, though, I'm going to go ahead and just try to get it lit up, even though the wind is still coming at me. Ooh, a lot of chemical taste coming through from my lighter right off the bat. I will admit, a lot of chemical taste. Whoa, a lot of chemical taste coming through from my lighter right off the bat kind of thing. Makes sense. This is an unfiltered cigarette. None of that chemical taste is going to be getting caught in the filter, that is for sure. Right off the bat, pretty rough as well, but it could have just been due to the butane. Testing the body. The body is, of course, massive. The body got whisked away really fast, and I didn't even take a very large hit. But the body is, of course, massive. This is indeed an unfiltered cigarette, although it's not the same size as most other unfiltered cigarettes, which I think are about this size. This is a king-size cigarette. It's the same size as a cigarette, as a king-size cigarette with a filter, but, well, it's unfiltered, which is pretty nice, I ain't gonna lie, y'all. But, you know, the body is pretty big. Let's go ahead and see if I can test the taste real quick. I definitely have to say, it's still a little bit stale. Less so than it was, but it's still a little bit stale. And so as such, I'm gonna wait a minute to really let you guys know what the taste is actually like. I'm gonna wait for the smoke of the cigarette to actually humidify the cigarette itself just a little bit. But it definitely is a little bit more stale than I was hoping, that is for sure. But, you know, overall, body-wise, absolutely huge. Draw-wise, the draw is wide open, you know what I'm saying? Airflow is super easy. There are no constrictions anywhere throughout the cigarette. The airflow is super easy. The draw is really easy. You really don't have to draw very much at all, I ain't gonna lie. And roughness and smoothness-wise, these definitely are rougher than not, that is for sure, but they're not any more significantly rough than something like, let's say, a Camel Unfiltered, a Lucky Strike Unfiltered, or a modern Pall Mall Unfiltered. I definitely have to say. So overall, certainly no complaints on my behalf, even with these being, like, I don't know, 3 times my age. They're still smokable, and they're still not bad at all. Now, the taste of the cigarette right off the bat, I definitely have to say, is not as sweet as I remember. And I think I've gotten to the point of the cigarette now where it should be a little bit humidified from the smoke and everything like that kind of thing. And the taste of the cigarette is not as sweet as I remember. Sadly. It is now more of a... It's definitely still stale, and it's definitely, you can definitely still tell the tobacco is more dry than not, that is for sure. But the taste overall is very much a... very bold, more sour than not tobacco taste, which might be due to the staleness, which is a shame, but... yeah, it's definitely a very bold, more sour than not tobacco taste with a little bit of sweetness in there as well, but not as much as I got on the last time I smoked one of these cigarettes, sadly. Maybe it was sweet because it was dry. Maybe it's sour now that it's a little bit humidified. I'm not exactly sure in all honesty, but it could certainly be just the stale factor as well. I will admit though, one thing that is very notable about this cigarette is that it is getting me decently buzzed, that is for sure. Even after 58 years of sitting in a pack, these cigarettes still have a decent amount of nicotine in them as well. And so I am feeling pretty buzzed off of this cigarette that is quite literally 3 times my age right now. Certainly no complaints on my behalf, that is for sure. But yeah, no, not a bad cigarette if I do say so myself. I definitely have to say, it's not as good as I was hoping. It's definitely not as good as I was hoping. It was very, very, very sweet the last time I smoked one of these, and this one is definitely not as sweet as the last one I smoked. I don't know why the last one I smoked was so sweet. Maybe it was just me or something like that kind of thing, or maybe it was just that cigarette being a one-off. Who knows, in all honesty. But this cigarette is definitely more of a, definitely more of a sort of sour tobacco taste. Very, very, very full flavored, but very sour, I definitely have to say. A very sour tobacco taste. Not bitter per se, because it is actually surprisingly smooth, but definitely just more sour than not. Very, very, very interesting if I do say so myself, and I completely forgot to get a little bit of a screenshot. I'm going to go ahead and just do that real quick, you know what I'm saying? There we go. I just got a little bit of sweetness. Maybe it's just the staleness. Maybe it's just the staleness making these really sour. I would not be surprised if it was just the staleness at all. But on that last hit, I did get a little bit of sweetness. No complaints on my behalf. Okay. So yeah, I think that sour taste is just from how, simply put, stale the cigarettes are. Sadly, the humidification packet I had was not as effective as I would have liked, which is what it is. But now that the cigarette has been a little bit humidified, just from the smoke itself and from while being smoked, it's definitely coming off a little bit more sweet. It's a shame that we're so far through the cigarette now that it's getting sweeter and everything like that kind of thing, but it definitely is, it definitely is more sweet than it was previously now. No complaints on my behalf, you know what I'm saying? Some tobacco in my mouth. Of course, it is an unfiltered cigarette, so that is a risk. That is an inherent risk of smoking unfiltered cigarettes, but that certainly is what it is. It is worth it to be able to smoke a 1960s cigarette, that is for sure. But no, overall, these are, pretty stale. These are pretty stale, I ain't gonna lie, y'all. But you do get a hint of what the tobacco is actually supposed to taste like as well. I really, 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 really want to find a pack of, like, 2014 Phillip Morris Commanders. I really, really, really want to find a pack of those. I know most of those are probably all gone. They've probably all been smoked and everything like that kind of thing, but I really, really, really do want to find a pack of those. Just to see if they're any less stale and to try to see what the actual taste of a modern Phillip Morris Commander is like compared to a 1960s one. I really, really, really want to find a pack of modern Phillip Morris Commanders. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. That would be absolutely legendary, and that is going to be one of my future goals, that is for sure. Yeah, no. Definitely still very stale. But the intricacies of the tobacco are coming through a little bit more than they were at the beginning of the video, or at the beginning of the cigarette. And I definitely have to say, you can tell that these cigarettes are meant to be a little bit sweeter than not. I definitely think they're not meant to be fully sweet cigarettes, but you can definitely tell that there is a little bit of sweetness in there, which is very, very, very nice and pleasant, if I do say so myself. Certainly no complaints on my behalf, you know what I'm saying? Overall, let's just go ahead and test the body one more time. And then after that, I think I'm gonna go and take the last couple hits of the cigarette. And then after that, I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys my final thoughts on the cigarette. And then after that, I'm gonna go ahead and give the 1960s Phillip Morris Commanders a official rating. And then after that, I'm gonna go and end the video right there. But without further ado, excuse me, let's go ahead and take a couple more hits. Let's go and test the body. And then after that, I'm gonna go and give you guys my final thoughts. I said I was going to test the body, but I inhaled. Oh, well. Body is still absolutely massive, of course. No surprise there. It is an unfiltered cigarette after all. Maybe the body got a little bit bigger throughout the cigarette, but not significantly so or anything like that kind of thing. This is an unfiltered cigarette. Unfiltered cigarettes tend to have the same, if not very, very, very similar body to what they have at the beginning as to what they have at the end. So no surprise there, you know what I'm saying? But overall, yeah, not a bad cigarette, even with these being from the 1960s. Not a bad cigarette. Still very smokable. Not the most enjoyable cigarette in the world, I will admit. Certainly not. If a modern cigarette tasted like this, I would not be giving it a very positive rating, but I am kind of thinking I kind of want to give the Phillip Morris Commanders a little bit of a positive rating because, well, they can't really do anything about being stale, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I've got to think about that. But this cigarette is getting very hot, and it's getting very rough as well, I will admit. Whoa, this is getting actually really rough. I do think I'm going to go ahead and take one more hit, and then after that, I'm going to go ahead and stub out the 1960s Phillip Morris Commander Cigarette, and then after that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my final thoughts on it. But that was that last hit. I'm just going to go and stub this cigarette out real quick. Whew, and there was a lot of tar as well. A lot of tar in that cigarette, I ain't going to lie, a lot of tar. I'm just going to go and take a sip of water real quick. And now it is time for me to go ahead and tell you guys my final thoughts on the Phillip Morris Commander unfiltered cigarettes from the 1960s, which have also been discontinued since about 2014 or 2015. So, what are my final thoughts on this pack of cigarettes right here? Well, I definitely have to say the packaging is very, very, very retro, and it looks very fancy. Not quite luxury per se, I definitely have to say, and the packaging itself hasn't aged super well. Design philosophy, in a design philosophy way, this certainly does not look like a well-aged pack of cigarettes, but I definitely have to say, yeah, it's definitely not like a timeless look per se, but it definitely does look better than not, and I am overall a pretty big fan of this packaging, especially with the design that stretches around and everything like that kind of thing. It's sad that the gold strip right here doesn't stretch all the way around the packaging, but that's certainly, well, I guess it does to an extent, but it ends right there just a little bit kind of thing. But it's still definitely a better look than not, and while it might not be the most timeless design in the world, it certainly is more timeless than some designs, and I think they've done a great job of making a very nice retro-looking cigarette pack. Or so I'd like to say, because this is actually a retro cigarette pack. But overall, I'm a pretty big fan of the packaging, as I'm sure you guys can tell. I think the Phillip Morris Commanders look fantastic. And I really, really, really am a big fan. It's not the most complex packaging in the world. It's not the best packaging in the world, but it's a very good retro look because this is a quite literally retro pack of cigarettes. And overall, I think the packaging looks pretty good. Not the best packaging ever, as said, but definitely far above average in my personal opinion. I definitely have to say the look of the cigarettes themselves are a pretty nice look. It just says Phillip Morris right there, and then you just get 3 stars, and then it just says Commander right there in a different font. I really do like how the cigarettes themselves look, and I think I need to put it in like that. Let's see. There we go. Put it back in the packaging, you know what I'm saying? And overall, yeah, I think the cigarettes look pretty good. Smoking-wise, and they smell pretty good as well. Smoking-wise, they are still pretty stale, which makes sense because it's a pack of cigarettes from the 1960s. So yeah, they are pretty stale, which is what it is. Taste-wise, they came off very stale and sour. But I did get a hint, both the last time I smoked these and this time I smoked these, I did get a hint of a sweet tobacco taste in there. And you could taste some of the tobacco in there, that is for sure. But sadly, not as much as I would like to say. Body-wise, the body was huge, to be expected. What was the next thing I was going to say? Body-wise, and then draw-wise, very easy draw. Airflow-wise, very, very, very easy airflow. Certainly no complaints on my behalf. And they were pretty rough. But they weren't really any more significantly rough than something like, let's say, a Camel Unfiltered or something like that kind of thing. Overall, it's an unfiltered cigarette from the 1960s. No complaints on my behalf. It's stale. Can't really taste a lot of the intricacies of the tobacco, but you do get a little bit of it in there kind of thing. And it's pretty rough kind of thing, but it's an unfiltered cigarette, so the body is massive, and the airflow is pretty good, and the draw is pretty good as well kind of thing. It's overall, a pretty good unfiltered cigarette kind of thing. Not bad. It would definitely be better, though, if it wasn't stale. Overall, though, what is the rating I'm thinking for the 1960s pack of Phillip Morris Commander cigarettes? The rating I am thinking is going to be, and this is a toughie, this is a tough one, because the cigarettes were not really all that pleasant to smoke. But it's not really their fault that they weren't really all that pleasant to smoke, because, I mean, like, it's a pack of cigarettes from the 1960s. Of course, it's going to be a little bit stale. So it's not really their fault. So do I want to count the staleness in on the rating, or do I want to just give them a rating based off of my assumption? I want to give them a legitimate, fair rating, and I can't assume something about the pack of cigarettes if it's going to be a fair rating. So as such, I think I am going to count the staleness against the cigarettes. So as such, they're not going to be getting the most positive rating in the world. But because of the packaging being pretty good, a very nice retro look, if I do say so myself, but not the most timeless look in the world, between the packaging, the very nice look of the cigarettes, and the sadly stale taste of the cigarettes, but with the upside of a very big body and a very good airflow and a very good draw, and them not being super rough by any means or anything like that kind of thing, and with the fact of me still being able to taste some of the intricacies of the tobacco and still being able to taste some of that sweet taste in there, I definitely have to say the Phillip Morris Commander cigarettes are deserving of a 7 out of 10. That's what I'd say. I think a 7 out of 10 is a very fair rating for them. I can't really give them above a 7 out of 10. They're not the most pleasant cigarettes to smoke, that is for sure, just simply because they're so old, but they're also really not all that bad to smoke either. If I saw a pack of Phillip Morris Commander cigarettes on the shelf of an antique shop, I would totally buy that pack. But I don't know if I would actually smoke them. I am going to smoke the rest of this pack, and I'm going to enjoy smoking the rest of this pack. Of course, I'm not going to let them go to waste. But I don't know if I would actually try smoking another pack of 1960s Phillip Morris Commander cigarettes again. Although I would definitely buy another pack just to have it in the collection, you know what I'm saying? But overall, yeah, very minor complaints about the Phillip Morris Commander unfiltered cigarettes from the 1960s. I think that's just about all I had to say. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have anything I missed out on saying or anything like that kind of thing. I feel like I'm forgetting to say something, but I cannot remember what it is. So please let me know in the comments down below if you guys think I forgot to mention something. And let me know in the comments down below as well if you guys have previously smoked a 1960s or just a vintage cigarette in general. And let me know also if you guys have smoked the more modern Phillip Morris Commanders, what those taste like. Because I'm very curious to find out whether the taste of these cigarettes right here is actually comparable to modern Phillip Morris Commanders, and I want to find out whether Phillip Morris Commanders are sweet like I think they are. Overall, just let me know in the comments down below, you know what I'm saying? But thank you very much for watching this video where I smoked a pack, where I smoked a cigarette from a pack of 1960s Phillip Morris Commander cigarettes and gave it a full review. Of course, please make sure to, like and subscribe for more content if you guys have enjoyed watching this video. I also have my Instagram, my book, my merch, my P.O. box, and my second channel all in the description down below. Go check it all out, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, thank you very much for watching, y'all. To the next one. Stay safe and peace and have a great one. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying?